big misconception that human design is like this belief system, and it's not. It's just like like I said, a personality test. It's just something fun.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Roaming Collective podcast. Today we have a special guest. Leah McCloud is joining us all the way from Ohio. Hi Leah.
Hi Trisha, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course, we're so happy and grateful to have you here. And I just want to share a little bit about how our paths have crossed, because I think it was just such a fun little synchronicity. Leah, I listened to you on a podcast. This was years ago.
Oh my
And that
gosh.
is when I was first getting into human design and I was starting to learn a little bit more about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to dive a little bit deeper into this. And then fast forward, I'm living in Austin and I started working with my entrepreneur coach, Jenny Johnson. And then she had mentioned that you guys had connected. And I was like, oh my gosh, I remember Leah from a podcast I listened to. Then I remember back in the fall, she posted the HCM course. And then I was like, okay, I think it's time to be certified. That's how I signed up. And then here we are together. So just fun
my
little
gosh.
synchronicity. And us two Ohio girls too, which we recently learned.
Even to add to that, I also heard about human design on a podcast. So
See, I think this is how it starts, right?
the
And
inception of it all.
yes, especially like because we both have that line one. That's when you're like, let me learn all the information. Just I love to hear new topics. I want to dive deeper into it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Exactly. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm so happy that you're here. And I think what would be helpful for everyone, because I think that they're still kind of getting into human design, but I think it would be nice to hear like your story and how you find yourself discovering human design and getting into that world.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I heard about it on a podcast. So just like anyone maybe listening to this or like you did, I was like kind of into podcasts, I feel like before they had their big wave. So back when I was in college, which I think, yeah, we're both from Ohio. And so we went to universities like very close by to each other. I think like rival universities, or at least that was always a thing when
Yes.
we were in school. So funny. But I was listening to a podcast and they had someone talk about human design on there. And I was someone who's always loved the personality tests and all that jazz, the woo woo. And I like literally, I feel like for my birthday, my whole life, people would get me like zodiac astrology books, different things like that. So I was always just known to be that girl. But then, so I was listening to this podcast. I'm like, oh, what's this human design thing? I haven't, done this test yet. So I remember I looked it up on my phone, and at the time there was like no info about human design that really existed out on the internet, or at least the info that was out there was very mechanical and vague. And if any of you guys have ever looked up your human design chart, which I recommend you do maybe for this episode or maybe for past episodes Trisha has done, but I looked up my chart and I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm a generator, but I don't really like know what this means. It's like this very mechanical, geary looking chart that kind of looks like a person. And so I didn't do anything with it. I was just like, okay, yeah, like that's kind of cool. It kind of sounded like me on this podcast, but then put it away and then didn't revisit it. That was in like 16, 17, something like that. And then I later on then went to, it was like 2020. Obviously, we know what happened that year. It's the pandemic. And the weird thing, and like to add to my story, there's a whole like layer to it that I won't get too deep into, but I actually had a psychic that told me in 2019 that I would like start a business and that it would be in a very specific like modality. And I remember her saying something related to design, but she didn't say human design. I know that. But she was like, I keep seeing the word design. And so I thought maybe I was going to get into interior design, which I also like have an interest in. But she more so told me that I would go on to start this business. And in 2 years' time, like I would take a leap toward it and it would work out, and that I was more spiritual than I thought. And she was like, do you know what I'm talking about? And I remember saying to her, no, I work in corporate America. I hate my job right now. Would love to start my own thing, but I have no idea what you're talking about. And so that was 2019. She also like predicted when I'd meet my husband, and I literally met him exactly when she said I would, and all sorts of things. Like that was just the beginning of some of the stuff that she predicted. So then 2020
Where's
happened.
This psychic? I need to contact her.
She's in Chicago. Her name's Angelina.
Oh my God, I used to live in Chicago. Okay.
Angelina Psychics. I think you can look her up. I have a review.
Okay.
It's like on the top of her Google reviews because I went back and was like, everything you said was true.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So
wild.
I ended up going on like a yoga retreat that year and kind of just thinking about things. Just felt really miserable in my corporate job, went through a breakup. all kinds of stuff like that, where I just was like, everything feels out of alignment. I don't know who I am or what I want to do. And then, yeah, all of a sudden it's like I meet my partner and I start doing okay at my corporate job. And then the pandemic happens, and so I'm spending a lot of time at home. And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he's a nurse, and he was, when COVID first happened, it was like, what is this scary thing? And he was working directly with those patients. So we didn't see each other for like a good month. And so the only person I saw was my roommate. And so I had a ton of free time. I was working remote, and I was scrolling the internet as one does, and I saw this girl post on her Instagram story, like just had the most amazing human design reader or reading, and it was so great, tagged the reader, and I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember learning about that thing a few years ago on that podcast, and I kind of want to dive into that. So I end up booking a reading with this girl, and so I booked my reading, and I think between the time I booked it and actually had the session was about 2 weeks. And so I'd ordered a ton of human design books online, and I was like, I'm going to try to like learn some things about this. And I became obsessed, because at that point, when you Googled human design, there was so much out there, not so much, but just like a lot more than there was just a few years prior. And so I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I want to know more about myself. And so I started kind of teaching myself. And so when I entered that reading, which is with a girl named Alexandra, which is so funny because she ended up writing, I just wrote a book about a year or within the last year on human design, and she wrote a review for my book. So full circle moment.
Yes, I love that.
But so I got into the reading, and I was like, I think I want to do this, and I want you to kind of educate me along the way and tell me about all the different intricacies. Like, you don't just need to tell me about myself. Like, I want to know where in the chart. And I spent that summer like just learning human design. I remember I enrolled in a training in like June of that year, and I think by October I started doing one-on-one readings. But so it began like that. I thought it would be a side gig to my corporate job, and then it slowly but surely turned into something bigger, where it was like I would do a friend, and then I would do a friend's mom, and then then I'd do her best friend, and then her sister, and then their coworker, and like it just became a domino effect of doing a ton of readings. And then slowly but surely felt like a disconnect between this corporate job. I was working in IT, so for a big manufacturing company, which I don't have an interest in manufacturing, believe it or not. And I did like working in IT though, and I like to manage digital projects. I still do some of that on the side, but I was like, wow, I really want to like do this human design thing. And so, yeah, slowly but surely it became what I ended up stepping into. And around 2022 is when I finally left my corporate job, and I've been doing it since.
Yes, I love that story. And it's so funny. I live for a sign of synchronicity. And I feel like there's just so many that were in your story too, of like hearing it on the podcast and just kind of following that thread and trusting it too. And then now it's able to be something that is completely evolved into your life and something that you've been able to like help and serve for people. So I just think that is so amazing of the full thread with all that. When you got that human design reading, did anything click for you?
Yeah, I always describe it as like equally confronting, but also really empowering at the same time. Like I remember being like, okay, this is me. Like it felt like it described me to a T, which was really great, because I don't know, sometimes you get into these personality tests or different things like that, and you're like, oh, like I don't know if this part feels like me, but human design felt like the truest thing that I'd ever read. I always say it gave language to my soul that I'd been searching for, but I, at the same time, felt really confronted because I was not living in alignment to what that said. So, for example, like me and Trisha are both generators, and I remember it said like, every day you should wake up feeling alive and love what you're doing every day, and I was like, oh, I feel so drained every single day. I hate what I'm doing. I feel like I can barely get out of bed. So that made me realize that, there was a pretty big disconnect. And even some of the like things within my chart that she had shared with me, I'm like, I know those, I know that girl, I've seen her before, but I'm not her today. So there's a lot of work I had to do. I had to unpack the conditioning, which is a big theme in human design, which was like, okay, where am I keeping myself small, or where am I doing things out of someone wanting me to be someone that I'm not, or someone my parents want me to be, or like where am I just stuck that I know that I could be living a bigger life. And so that was that was the work I had to do.
Yeah, and once you realize that, doesn't it almost feel so freeing? Where, yes, it's
Yeah.
scary. It's like you're looking forward, like, oh gosh, like there was a lot that I absorbed that maybe wasn't mine. But then when you look at it, you're like, I can pick and choose of what feels like it resonates with me. And then I'm able to leave the rest, which I think just feels so freeing in a certain regard because you're able to just release some of that out. So it doesn't feel like it has to feel so heavy. And then you are feeling drained when you're holding all that in and you're like trying to live something else by someone else's rule book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is so freeing because you're like, wait, I don't have to live like this, and like I don't know why I feel like I should. It was, yeah, removing like all the shoulds and really unbecoming, which I think is a big part of our human design, is like unbecoming to become. It's not about
Yes.
changing your whole life. It's about just like, how do I shed away all these layers of things that I'm like trying to be that just don't actually feel authentic.
Oh my gosh, yes, that resonates so much. And my conscious sun, I'm a gate 55, so we know that's like
Oh, yeah.
one of the bigger gates in our chart. And the sun
Mhm.
is our core personality. It's kind of the core of who we are.
Uh-huh.
And mine's gate 55, which is the gate of abundance, but
Yeah.
also the lives in the solar plexus, which is where we feel a lot of our emotions. And it
Mm-hmm.
took me a long time to understand that gate. I felt like at first I would just have a lot of these emotional waves. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, there's just too much coming in. And then over time, once I've actually, honestly, once I got certified through your course and I learned a lot more about it and I got to sit with it and I got to see the trajectory of my gate 55, then I learned how to alchemize it. Where anytime I'm going in a low, instead of fighting it, I just allow it. And I'm like, I'm not going to try to solve of why I'm feeling it. I mean, I don't want to always intellectualize my feelings. I just want to sit with them. And I swear, every single time I'm in a low, it always takes me up through the high and I always ride it. And it always gives me like fuel or a spark of like inspiration where I'm able to be like, oh yes, like now I totally see how I can alchemize it and use it. So I think that there's
Yeah.
just so much language around human design, and sometimes when you first see it, it's like, what is this? And then as you
Yeah.
start to get on all the different layers, you uncover so many parts of yourself too that are like the gifts, the great things, and of course, some of the deconditioning that we just talked about. But it's just so cool because there's so much within it that any information in there, it's always like at different parts of your life. Like I always find myself during certain months or certain waves that I'm going through, I'm always looking back at the chart at like different planets, different aspects
Yeah.
of it, and just like, wait a minute, what else can I be absorbing with it? So I just feel like there's just so
Yeah.
much information in there that you can never go wrong.
Oh,
It's just
I mean,
endless.
human design is like a forever knowledge system where you never feel like you get to an end point with it. At least I haven't in all the years that I've been doing human design. Is it just, yeah, it feels like there's always a new piece to peel back and learn a little bit more. Or even human design is made up of a bunch of different systems. So it's like fun to dive into some of those. Like astrology is actually a part of human design. So is the chakra system. So even learning about some of those is like really been fun. And it just feels like
Yeah.
there's more knowledge to pick up, which, as you mentioned, you and I are definitely the type of people who like knowledge. Anyone who has a one in
Yes.
their profile, if you have your chart pulled up, you probably like knowledge too, or just want to have a lot of information.
Absolutely, yes. And it's just I always love learning. That's totally on par. And I know that you mentioned astrology, and you personally were also a little bit into astrology. Were you into it before human design, or was it something that you found yourself more gravitated towards once you learned a little bit more about human design?
Both. I was really into it my whole life. One of the things that I did as a kid was my mom had that like birthday stars and number book. It's like that giant, you may have seen it if you've
Oh,
ever been into like a
yes.
Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
My mom had that and I loved it. Like I could actually grab the book and just flip it to my page without doing anything because that's how much I read it when I was
It's like
like
muscle memory when you open the book.
12. I
Yes.
was obsessed and I like that was my Bible. Like every word on my page, November 9th is my birthday, and I was like, yep, that's me, that's me. And so I loved it. I've always been interested in astrology, and obviously human design's having its moment right now where people didn't know what that was back when I was growing up. Like I said, I didn't hear about it till like 2017. So yeah, I have always loved astrology, but I didn't know a lot about it. I just knew the 12 zodiac signs. I knew what dates those were. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I think once I got into human design and seeing how complex human design can be, and knowing that there's all these different parts to it, it made me dive into astrology a little bit deeper and realize that there's a lot of layers to astrology too, that it's not just your sun sign. There's your rising, your moon, which I think now that's even common knowledge, but outside of even that, it's like all the different aspects in astrology, the different house systems, the different angles and things like that you can have. So I started to learn a little bit deeper into it. I'm not an astrologer. I've taken one astrology course. I'm not certified. I can't look at a natal chart and fully understand it. So that's something I'm still grasping. I really want to actually do a course at I want to dive in a little bit deeper and maybe get certified in some capacity. But yeah, I love astrology.
That'd be so fun. Yeah, kind of do like a dual reading with like human design with a little bit of mix of astrology would be cool too.
Yeah, a couple of the girls that are in HDM, the course that I teach that you took, they are astrologers. So I learn a lot from them, honestly.
Yes, there's so much within that too, right? I'm like, that's like a whole other thing to have to go and learn. I'm like, that's like a full commitment track for that one.
Oh,
too.
yeah. And talk about forever knowledge system. I mean, astrology's been around for centuries, so it's got a lot of layers and a lot of history.
It is so fascinating. So tell me a little bit more about how you started your business and everything too, and how did you know at what point it was time to leap into your business?
Oh, honestly, there's a lot of layers to that story too, but yeah, I started to feel like a really big disconnect between what I was doing in my corporate job and then what I wanted to do. And at the end of 2020, I mentioned that my boyfriend at the time was a nurse. We moved to Southern California from Ohio. And we moved there and I was still working East Coast hours. So my schedule was like 5 a.m. to 2. And I was spending then from 2 to like 10 p.m. basically doing human design. So I was working a lot and just obsessing over human design, doing readings. And I was getting really burnt out because I was like, I don't want to do my corporate job. And then I was having moments where I was like, I was working remote. So I'm like slacking and just totally not doing the things that I was supposed to do for my corporate job. And I'm like, I just want to do human design. And so I think I had lots of moments of just like crying, talking about how much I just would rather be doing this other thing. And so my mental health kind of got to a point where it was like, wow, I'm really frustrated. And actually, one of the biggest turning points for me was I remember I was giving a reading to someone and she said, she had a very similar chart to mine. So I'm a 5-1 sacral generator and she was a 5-1 sacral generator as well. And she said to me, how do you trust your gut? Like, give me an example of like a moment that you've done that. She like asked me that in the session. And it was a moment where I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, I actually am not even living the things that I'm teaching, not practicing what I preach, because here I was in all these sessions being like, you need to do the things that light you up and you need to like listen to your gut and like follow what feels expansive. And I was like sitting there not following what feels expansive. Now, in that time period, I'd gotten a pretty big raise. And so I felt like I had kind of a golden handcuff to my corporate job. And so, yeah, I remember I got off that reading and I booked a meeting with my corporate boss. And I was like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm going through something. And I had a really conscious boss and he had said to me, I think you're going through spiritual awakening, and like had this really beautiful conversation with me. And he's like, well, what if we like let you go part-time for a little bit? So I ended up going part-time for about 6 months. And then at the end of the 6 months, it was like, you can either come back and do your corporate job full-time or you can leave. And so that 6 months really allowed me to figure out what I wanted to do next. And actually ended up filling up my time I got another part-time job working as the executive assistant to a mindfulness coach. Oh, cool. I did that for about 6 months and realized that wasn't for me, but I learned so much about how to run a business similar to what I'm doing today. And so I think it was like I was meant to be in that. But yeah, then ultimately I quit both. And literally at the same time. I was like, I'm done with that and I'm done with this and I'm doing human design. So that was it. It was kind of like it got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore. And I just knew that I had to practice what I was preaching and I had to follow what was really exciting to me. And like you talked about links from the universe and signs like that, I the week that I left my corporate job, I had like 20 people book a reading with me in 1 week, which is crazy because
Yeah.
I to this day have never had that many people book a reading with me in a week. And in fact, you can't because that's too many and I have a block on it. But it was like, oh wow, I meant to do this. And so that was it.
I feel
Yeah.
like whenever you take the leap, the universe rushes in with opportunities and then gives little signs to show that you're on the right path.
Yeah, and I have the channel of the beat, the visionary channel, the 2 to 14, which
Yeah.
is very much about that. It's like resources will wrap around you if you take your leap of faith. So I had to do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I related to what you said so much too, because I'm also a sacral generator 5-1. I wonder if burnout and a lot of that is so common in ours because same thing, I was working in corporate too, and I became extremely burnt out. Like I was not myself. I was crying all the time. I was exhausted, and same thing, I had a conversation with a psychic too, and she told me, she's like, every ounce of you knows you're not meant to be there. That's why you're drained. And she's like, but you're resisting it. And I was like, I know, because I was like gripping on so tightly for so long, because then you just get so scared to like let go of it. And so it took me some baby steps to get there. But yeah, I ended up taking a leave, and then that's when it kind of gave me those 3 months to really like sit with it and to figure it out. But it's so funny that we kind of have
Wow.
like a similar journey into that too. And I'm
Yeah.
curious for you, like, I know as a sacral generator, do you ever feel like for the first half of your life, or at least for a lot of it, you were conditioned to work through the mind? And then do you feel like you had to kind of go back into getting more into the body and figuring out how those body cues could work with you so you can make decisions?
Yes and no. I don't know if you and your chart have a defined mind. I do have an open mind.
Okay.
So
I've an open mind too. Yeah.
you do. Okay. I it yes and no. So like there are moments
Yeah.
in my life where I felt like I had to do the right thing, do the smart thing. Especially my dad's a projector, and that's always been a really interesting relationship in my life. He's a 5-1 emotional projector, and
Cool.
we could not. I wouldn't say that we could be more different actually. Yeah, I will say that. Like we're very different in a lot of ways, but have lots of love for each other. But like
Hmm.
having a parent who my dad is very attuned to what's safe or not. He has an open spleen, and so he
Hmm.
carries a lot of fear, and so like there's a lot of projection in my life. Make sure you're doing things the right way, and like I've done a lot of work. I did the Hoffman process earlier this year, and I've learned a lot about my dad and his own childhood, but like he would project a lot onto me of like, you have this great job, like you shouldn't leave, you have to be smart. And that was really challenging for me to hear, especially from like a parent who you admire,
Yeah.
and like you don't want to like disappoint your parents, you know? So I had some of that where it felt like it was like my mind is like really disconnected from what my body's saying. But I think the older I got, like I think my true self, I don't do that on my own. Like I don't get in my head too much. I'm very body and intuitive led. And so yeah, like I've had moments, but I would say more so now it's like no, I really like can surrender to like what my body's saying, and I'm really good about it. I know when something isn't right for me. Like I get
Yeah.
sick, I feel completely out of alignment. I kind of recluse. I don't want to go anywhere. Like it's and then sometimes when I move against it, it like backfires at me so fast. So it's I don't know. Yeah, it's a
Yeah. And I
long-winded
think
answer, but
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And I think once you trust your intuition and your body's cues and you develop that muscle, and it's like almost like that practice and that repetition in the future, then you're able to really like, oh wait, I remember when this happened in the past. And now I'm able to
yeah.
like really tap into that feeling and trust it and just go with it. Whereas before sometimes, at least I'll speak for myself, sometimes I still do this now. Sometimes I have that open mind. Sometimes I am still like going in there like kind of understanding the decision I could make, or I'm just kind of going back and forth. So it's sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm like, let me go back into my body and check in.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's like a full process.
I think the hardest thing for me is getting people to see it the way that I see it. And I don't know if this is the way for you too, because I will have experiences where I can lean into, I can surrender to like the wisdom of my body or my gut, and I feel like I live in maybe an optimism land or something, and it's like hard to get someone to agree with the way that I see it or the choices that I'm making. And I think that's been more of a challenge for me than anything. I don't know if that resonates with you, but I like, for example, my husband, who is a 4-6 sacral generator, like
Uh-huh.
sometimes we don't see eye to eye on like the thing that like I'll be like, okay, this is right for me and this is the reason why. And sometimes he's like, I don't think that is. And so I have to be like, I have to almost convince other people that no, this is true for me. I can't explain it and my body just knows.
Yeah, that is so true. And I think too, once you're living out from your intuition, everyone's intuition looks a little bit differently, right? Sometimes people are tapped in different regards. And so it's like, if you just feel so true in your body and you just know, it's like, just be able to go with it. And then sometimes it's like when you have family, people that you love, sometimes they're coming in and they're obviously protective and care. And so it can be sometimes hard to like keep trusting that and just to be like, wait, no, I got this. Sometimes it is like a little bit of like oh gosh. Talk to me like a little bit about, what do you feel like is a common misconception about human design? When you were first starting your business, did you have anything that you felt like you, as we were talking just before this, felt like having to prove stuff or convince people? Was there any of that started when you were getting more into human design and starting Design of You?
Ooh, yeah, still to this day, like big. Especially now, it feels like there's like a weird kind of spiritual crisis going on in the world. But yeah, I mean, I specifically remember my mom's good friend had said directly to my face, like, I like don't believe in what you're doing, but I support you. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't, it just is weird to me, and it still is when people have like lots of comments about things. There a lot of people, when they hear astrology or they think of like these systems of some kind, they think that it like immediately goes against like some kind of religion. And so yeah, it's like a big misconception that human design is like this belief system, and it's not. It's just like like I said, a personality test. It's just something fun. Yeah, it has a lot of beautiful like esoteric systems weaved in, but it also has layers of science, and it's not meant to be dogmatic or like the end all be all or something that we all have to follow or be preached about too. It's just like something cool and that like might speak to you, and it might help explain some of the reasons you are the way that you are. So yeah, like I remember having some experiences where people were really confused and concerned, like definitely concerned, especially going from someone who like had this really amazing corporate career, and the company that I used to work at is headquartered in my hometown, and I'm not from a big hometown, and so it's like the company to work at. So when you used to tell people like, oh, I work here, they're like, oh, like they immediately like that's street cred. They think that you're really smart. And yeah, like it's something people all like, everyone wants to work there, and it's hard to get in. I guess I got fortunate. I don't know. But so telling people I was leaving that to do this woo-woo thing was very, destabilizing for the people around me, because they're like, what do you mean you're going to start an online business? And I think now people can see how an online business operates and runs. That was newer back in 2020. But yeah, now it's like, it's I get less of it, but then at the same time I mentioned there is like a spiritual crisis going on. So lately I've had some comments, for example, like I had a student reach out to me recently who was in this women's group, like women's entrepreneur group, and they were going to have her do a talk on human design, and she reached out to me because she said one of the girls like made a big point in like this group channel that they were in, and she's like, I will not be attending this. This goes against my beliefs, and if anyone else feels the same way. And she was like, that's never happened to me. I'm so confused. Has this happened to you? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we get random comments on Instagram about things all the time. I was like, I just think it's silly because it's not that deep. But for some people, it might be.
I love how you said it earlier too, and I just feel like human design is just such a great tool, right? Like that's what it is. It's like take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Yeah. It's like it doesn't have to be an end all be all. It's just like there's certain things that can help you work with your energy, implement into your daily life, but it doesn't have to be something that is like by the book, you have to do this, right?
It's not asking you to believe in something, it's asking you to experiment. And actually the person who created human design, his name is Alan. He goes by Ra Ruhu, or did before he passed in 2011. But like he even says, I'm not telling you to believe in this. I'm telling you, like, why don't you just try it for yourself? And if it works for you, then cool. Like, let me know. I'll tell you more about it. If not, then then go have fun and live your dang life. It doesn't matter. So that's what I always tell people. I'm like, hey, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. I'm here to just tell you about it. Like we talked about with the information thing. I love knowledge. I love to tell everyone about all the rabbit holes I've gone down and all that kind of stuff. And so I love to teach it, but I don't really care if you believe in it or not, because it's a misconception that it's something to believe in,
Yes. say it louder for the people in the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for Design of You, how did you figure out ways to like make it more of a brand? Were you able to add in the certification, the guidebooks? Like what kind of drew you to adding more layers into it?
Yeah. So it started off with just doing human design readings. Like I said, I always thought I would just do that on the side of my corporate job, which a lot of people who end up training with me, that is what they do. And so I thought, yeah, I remember reading somewhere that most like successful people have 7 forms of income. So I'm like, I have my corporate job, and so maybe this will be like a way for me to tap into like this part of me that loves, like I loved being the advice friend, and I was always the person people were texting to get help with things in their life. So it felt like a way for me to tap into that. And human design offers this framework in which you can kind of learn about someone's chart quickly. So instead of me giving my advice based on my experience to a friend, it's like, actually, this is how it would work for you based on your chart. So I loved that. And so that was kind of the way that I always saw it at first. And then once I started doing my sessions, one of the things that I would offer was I would send this document of notes. And primarily because when I was doing one-on-one readings, I would have to study before when I was still learning. So I would put together this like chart summary is what I would call it. So at the end of the reading, you got like your audio replay, and then I would send you the chart summary, and then you would be able to kind of read that. And so what happened was people were like, I really like these. Can I get one of these just like chart summaries for my friend? Because then people would be like, can I book with you? And my times got weird because I could only do so much. Yeah. So finally I was like, maybe I should just sell these chart summaries. So I actually made an Etsy account. And that's when I was like, my business is going to be called The Design of You. I don't know where The Design of You came from. I don't know if I was on Instagram, like trying to make a handle one night, or if I just came up with that, but that's kind of been it from the beginning. And so before I even really had a presence on Instagram, I was like, I'm going to sell these on Etsy. People liked them, and they were very basic. So it went over like the, I guess, big 3 of your chart: your energy type, your authority, and then your profile, and then maybe a couple other little things. So then I was like, all right, well, people want more of an in-depth version. So there's, again, so many layers to the chart. So then I started creating these like deeper versions that people could buy. So what was happening is I was doing just a few readings then per week, and then I would spend all my evenings doing these guidebooks. So you'd purchase one on Etsy, I'd put them together, which again, they were called chart summaries.
And they were like printed, like you would print them out and then mail them and put them together?
Nope,
or
just
was
PDFs.
It all digital? Okay, cool.
So I had like a master Google Doc of like all this content that I wrote, and then I would just copy and paste the different sections into another Google Doc and put your name and screenshot of your chart. They would take me like an hour to 2 hours to put together.
See, that's like so much information to be putting together too, right? Yeah.
It was a lot. And so then I ended up, I would send those as a PDF to people, and they really liked them. So that was like the first part of what I was doing was that, and then just the readings. And then that was, even when I left my corporate job, that was kind of the gist of it all. And then I realized like, okay, these guidebooks or these chart summaries, they could be so much better. What I had done was like, if I knew a lot about a certain aspect of a chart, I felt like I had a lot of content on it. And then if I knew not a lot, it would be like smaller. And so they were just kind of inconsistent. Like I think I got some feedback at some point that was like, my friend who got hers like was more detailed than mine. And I was like, like that section maybe I wrote more for. I don't know. So I was like, I need to overhaul these. So then I ended up spending some time kind of overhauling that. And then I created what now is the guidebook, which like not gazillions of people, like 3,000 people have, but people really love them. And those are like the beautiful books that like are people just adore those things. So that is like kind of how those began. And that really allowed me to have this stream of, I guess, income outside of just doing readings. But as I was doing readings, I had some people ask me like if I would mentor them in learning human design. So then I started doing that. I just started mentoring people. So I had a few one-on-one clients, and we would do Voxer, and then I would sit with them in sessions for an hour every week, and I would teach them all the different parts of the human design system. So then, that was kind of that. And then I realized I should teach this in a group. So then Human Design Mastery was born in 2023. Yes. And it started as like, my live course, then it turned into a self-paced course, but now there's like 2 versions. You can either join live or you can join self-paced. If you're in the live version, you get the self-paced too. Now we have like 330 students, I think. So, I mean, that's the beginning of it all. There's also some like merchandise stuff I did in there. Like I used to sell human design mugs on Etsy.
Oh, so cute.
I used to have a necklace line. I partnered with a jeweler in Tahoe,
cool.
and she created these energy type necklaces with me, and those
cool.
they're not available anymore, but that was like another stream of income. So that's really like, I just started thinking of things that I'd want, and then my social media started growing and growing. So that was a part of it as well.
I love that. And I'm so grateful that you made the human design course and I could join and become certified too. So I'm so grateful for that.
That's my favorite thing that I do. So
Yeah.
my course is called Human Design Mastery, and yeah, I love it. I love to teach human design. I love to talk about all the different layers to it. I like doing that even more than giving readings. It's my favorite place to be. I love talking to students. I love talking about how they can build businesses, doing things that they love. So it's really fun.
Yes, and one thing that I wanted to point out that was so cool, you really took your strategy in tow with that. So you were waiting for things to respond to, where people give you feedback and they were like, oh, hey, like add a little bit more in this section, or hey, we're looking for this. So I thought that was just so great and to show that like over time, like as you're following your human design and how you're a generator and how you're meant to respond. And so side note, anyone looking at their chart, you can go into your strategy and see what that is. That's how you're able to call in some opportunities, and then your authority is how you make those decisions. But for the strategy for generators, so we're meant to respond, and so that can look in so many different ways, right? Sometimes you're on social media and you see a post about something, it's like, do I feel lit up about this or not? Or you're gonna be having a conversation with someone, or someone can be giving feedback. And so I thought that was just so cool that you were able to really honor that, and like to show that like as you were doing that, you were also doing building blocks, but people were responding to, and so you were able to take that information and kind of like craft your business around what people were asking for, but also honoring yourself and like what was also making you feel lit up as well.
100%. Exactly. Yeah. So it really was that. And that continues to be kind of how I move about in my business, is like, what do people want more of? What do people want less of? What do I no longer like to do? So I mentioned readings. There's been moments in my business where I stopped doing readings completely, and then I bring them back. Like right now I'm doing a lot of readings before I go on maternity leave. And I don't know that I'll ever do readings again after this maternity leave.
Okay,
but
if you want to get a reading with Leah, do it now. Run to our website immediately.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
do it
actually
right
like,
now.
like there's maybe 15 left. Like they're booking up very quickly. So if you want a reading with me, get one. But I have had moments where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then all of a sudden it's like a long time, and I'm like, I think I want to do readings again. I'm going to bring that back. And so then I want to do them. So I have these moments where I kind of, just follow whatever my body is leading me toward. And it doesn't have to make sense. I think the more that I try to make my business this like engine of things, and try to follow the checklist of all the different platforms you need to be on and how often you have to post, whatever, like it just never works for me. It burns me out very quickly. I just have to really be intuitive about it. And I don't know, that just
let it flow.
That's how I move about my life, for sure.
Which is just so much easier.
Yeah, it is.
Do you feel like there's anything in the chart where there's like anything that feels a little underrated, where it's like either centers or certain gates? Like, is there anything that you feel like feels like it needs to be getting a little bit more love, or people to like pay attention a little bit more to it?
Oh, I love this question. I mean, yes, so many things. Sometimes I see people focus a lot on what's called gates in our chart, which each person has like 26 different gates, and then they completely disregard a part of our chart called channels. Like one of the bigger human design apps that a lot of people have, like, doesn't really cover channels, or at least it used to not. I don't know if it does anymore. And I feel like people are like, oh, I have this gift, I have that gift, I have this gift. And I'm like, yes, but there's a lot of nuance to that. And it's not just as black and white as what you're describing. It's like, let's look at something called channels first, because those are your like strongest and consistent gifts. Now, if you're a reflector energy type, you don't have any channels, which isn't a bad thing. It just means that you're meant to feel the energy of the room around you, and the gifts tap into other people's gifts, and like you're meant to be a mirror. But I think that piece, I see people kind of like get really excited about, and it's not necessarily the first place to start. Or like there's this other deeper layer called like digestion, which speaks to how we digest food, which naturally people are very excited about, or our environments. but it's also not somewhere I'd start. I think going to the basics, energy type, strategy, authority, profile, those are like some key ones. And then I would say the other thing that's really fun is Incarnation Cross. I love to talk about Incarnation Cross, which does include the gates. So
Yes.
again, layers to it, but I do think Incarnation Cross is a really underrated. So, like when I do, so I also coach people one-on-one on like outside of everything else that I do. And I obviously weave human design into that, but I always have my clients go deep into their Incarnation Cross because I really want them to understand their energetic purpose in the world.
Yes, I think the Incarnation Cross is like one of my favorites too. And for channels, I was actually just diving a little bit more into mine yesterday, which I mean, I like know mine inside and out, but I was still like, let me just like look a little bit more into it.
Yeah.
Because what's so interesting, mine all make a circuit, and I have the three same numbers repeating. So I have
What channels do you have? Okay.
I have 3410, 5710, and then 3457. And all my centers are all my identity, my spleen, and then my sacral. They're all connected. So they all like speak to each other.
Yeah.
And so I was
Are
trying
those
to
your
figure
only
out,
defined ones?
those are my only channels. So I know I'm obviously independent for my definition. So I'm obviously have like that single flow of energy, but I think it's just so interesting that all of them are all together like that. They're all just in one little circuit. So I was like diving a little bit more into my intuition yesterday. Where can I tap more into my body? Because sometimes like those things come in an instant. And I'm like, if I miss it, then my mind gets involved. And my mind's like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I got to check in for the first instinct and just see what it is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, because those are the integration circuit. And so, yeah, they're all, and they all overlap with each other. Super cool. Super strong intuition. Yeah.
I took one of your courses too that was all about the intuition, and I had all three of those too, like 57, 19, and 61. And I was like, I'm not shocked. It's just so fun to like, that's what we're saying too about human design. There's so much information there. It's just so cool to like dive deeper into like all the different avenues as well. Because there's like so many little things that you're like, wait a minute, I didn't even realize that this gate could mean that.
Do you do any work with your intuition outside of human design? Like,
yes.
Professionally?
Yes.
Okay.
I intuitively get downloads when I'm doing readings, but you know what's so interesting, which I haven't really shared this on the podcast yet, but I also have touch as my sense. And the more I've been getting deeper into my spirituality, I've also been doing acupuncture, a lot of stuff. I'm actually now able to channel Reiki energy. And so I notice that it's like kind of coming through and like throughout my body. Like I also get stuff like through a channel, right? So like I do a lot of meditation. Sometimes I'm in readings, like I get a lot of like insight or like things I should be talking about or leading with. And then lately mine's also been kind of coming from like another body base. And it's so funny because I was always like, I'm not like a touchy feely person. But then the more I'm kind of like following my human design, the more I'm getting deeper into just obviously with like my health and all that stuff as I've been working with like functional health and all that. I feel like the more the stuff has been coming alive. And so I'm excited to be able to like dive deeper into it. So I think it's like popping up in so many different layers.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I want to connect you to someone I know in Austin. I feel like you guys would jam.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I would love to be connected. And then tell me a little bit more too, because you recently published a book, which congrats. And I think that came out in 2025, right? So tell us a little bit more about the book.
Yeah, it came out New Year's Eve. So basically, technically 2025, but basically 2026, just at the start of the year. So fun. Yeah. Another manifestation moment. Always have wanted to be an author. I've always wanted to write a book. And had a book deal kind of like actually quite literally land in my lap. Something must have been percolating at the time because I had like 3 publishers reach out to me within a 3-month span of being like, have you ever thought about writing a book? And a couple of them didn't work out. And then one reached out to me that I was like, oh, this is a publisher I really want to work with. And so I didn't have to go out and I didn't write a proposal. I didn't do anything for it. I literally just got an email and then had some conversations and then signed a book deal a few months later. And writing a book is a very hard undertaking. Learned that, but also really fun. Editors are a whole thing.
Sure.
Especially when you're writing about something as complicated as human design. Like it's hard to get almost editing from it because I remember it was actually kind of interesting. There were parts of human design I felt very pushed in a way where like there's things in human design, the language and the jargon. I think I do a really good job breaking it down, but things repeat. So like I remember my editor at one point being like, "You've said theme like 3 times. Is this like the signature theme, the theme of this center, like your like incarnation cross theme?" She's like, "Why is everything a theme?" And like I remember at one point in the center section, I wrote about the identity center, and she was like, "So you have a profile." She's like, "You have an energy type, but then you have an identity." She was like, "I don't get it." So I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I know the words. But I remember at one point she's like, "It's your job to break down these words and like make them easy." And I was like, dang. I'm like, well, you should see what the real words are, because some of them I actually do break down. But it was, yeah, writing a book was great. It's so weird. Trisha was telling me before we jumped on that she saw my book at a shop recently, and like that's still mind-boggling to me. Is like I can go in somewhere and I see my book, or a friend will be on a vacation and they see my book in some bookstore, or like it's in most Barnes and Nobles. I live in Ohio now. I used to live in Southern California for the last 5 years. I just moved in November, and a lot of the Barnes and Nobles and things around here do not carry my book, and because they place books based on community interest at Barnes and Nobles. So it's really cool when you go to big cities, because my book's in all the big cities like Austin or across the coast of California and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been really fun. If you guys are interested in human design, get it.
Yes. And it does like it gives like a good like if you're new to it, or if you're like even if you're still understand, it's like kind of gives some different languaging and some different ways you can implement it, right?
Yeah, it's very much it's like a beginner's guide, and I think the point of the book is that I wanted there to be a kind of a workbook, if you will, within human design. The angle we took with the publisher, and I was really excited to write this book with them because this is what they wanted to do and what their specialty is. I wrote with Chronicle Books, who they did like the Snoop Dogg cookbook, and
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
lots of like gifty type books is what they're known for. And I wanted to create, or they wanted to create, a human design gift type book. So it's like you give this to a friend and they can fill it out. They don't need to know anything about their chart. And so that's what we did, and it's super fun. I love like filling out all the fill in the blanks, and I just wanted people to feel like it was an experience, and that like I talked about growing up, so many people for my birthday would be like, "Here's this zodiac book that I saw at Urban Outfitters." And like my dream is to have my book at Urban Outfitters, which I think we're working through. We're trying to figure out how to get. But I'm like, I wanted a book that people can be like, "Here's this human design book. I know you're interested in it," and gift it to their friends.
Yes. Well, keep that in mind, everyone, as the holidays. I know we're still a ways away, but we're like almost there. But as the holiday season's approaching, keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
6 months away. Birthdays,
Yes.
though.
Yes, birthdays, 4th of
East.
July, you can get the book.
Yeah.
All the
I was
different
like,
holidays
I
going
almost said
on.
Easter, but I'm like, Easter's past. You
Yeah.
know,
Just for any reason.
Halloween,
Yeah, just pick up the book.
Thanksgiving, wherever you live. Memorial, Labor Day, whatever.
All the above. And then I think the book's sold on Amazon too, right? So they can get it online.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon or anywhere you can buy books, like Books a Zillion or Books a Million, I think. Target has it too, so does Walmart. And you can get it on, well, my website will just take you to one of those places. But if you go to my website, it'll link all the other places you can buy it. Yeah.
Amazing. And then your next course live round is starting, right? In the summertime here
Yes.
soon?
Yeah, if anyone wants to learn human design with me, I mean, you can jump in now, and there's a self-paced version. So if you're the type of person who doesn't learn well on a live call, or don't want to feel like you have to join something, which you don't, even if you're in the live course, you don't have to make all the live calls. There's replays. But we do have an upcoming live round starting July 13th. And essentially what that's like is we go through all the different parts of the human design system over 16 calls. So it's about 8 weeks. And I do have a teaching assistant. Her name is Carrie. So she teaches part of this round, and then I'm teaching part of it too. And yeah, and then at the end, you'll be certified in human design. So we do certify and train readers, and we've got students all over the world. It is so fun. It's my favorite thing to do. I love talking about all the intricacies of it.
And I can tell you put so much care into it too, because the way that
Thank you.
everything is broken down, it is just so I feel like it's been the easiest one, and that's why I was feeling really drawn to it, was
Thank
because of the
you.
self course pace, because I picked it up a little bit later once the live course was already going, but it was nice because I was
Yeah.
able to like join a little bit at the end or be able to catch some of the replays.
Yeah.
And it was just so great too because it took everything like in a very structured way where I know sometimes
Mm-hmm.
human design, as we were saying so much throughout this, is like there's a lot of information in there. So it's just really nice to have it all in there and stuff that is like the key topics, but also just like getting deeper into stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
obviously you can have that information like all throughout. So anytime you get access to the course, you can have it for as long as, you know, you need
Yeah.
it. So I think that's
It's
also
lifetime
great. And
access.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's great. I can go back and like look at stuff and to go back and be like, wait, what was that one again? And just like be able to
Or
have
join
all
a
that
live call.
information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're in the live round, you get access to all future live rounds. You don't have to like pay to join again. We do monthly study group for an hour if you feel like joining that. We do random bonus calls. We literally just did one yesterday on deconditioning by design that is open to the public. They could buy tickets to, but then my students get free access. So we do lots of workshops, lots of just fun deep dives. It's a good time, and I am always making changes to it. Like in fact, right now, after this past live round just concluded, we're making some small tweaks to things before this next one starts, and I just love it. Yeah.
Yes. I think it's the creme de la creme of all the options. So if you want to
Thank
do
you.
it, go to Leah's. Yes, she
Thank
does
you.
it. Yes, a natural teacher.
Thank you. Thank you. My astrology does say that. So
Yes, there you go.
I had an astrologer recently do a reading, and she's like, "You were meant to teach and write," and I was like, "Well, that is what I like to do." So, boom.
Perfect. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just manifested in all the different avenues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Leah, thank you so much for joining today. It was such a
Thanks for
pleasure to
having
have you on the
me.
podcast. And then tell everyone where they can catch you and on social media and then also the website. And I'll link it all in the show notes too.
Yeah, I'm just the design of you everything. So just look that up. Leah McCloud, the design of you. That's the name of my website, designofyou.com. My book's called The Design of You. I used to have a podcast. It's out in the others, but I don't do any recordings anymore. But that's The Design of You if you want to listen to that. But then my course is Human Design Mastery. So there is another course out there called Human Design Mastery. So make sure it's the one through me because that one came about later. So yeah, that is. We'll link it down below too, and
Yeah.
Trisha has like a link for it. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining today. I'm so
Thank
grateful.
you. I'm so grateful too. Thanks for having me.